Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Neville and welcome to Selective Imagery. I started taking pictures when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I really shoot just about everything. And here's some samples of what I take, whether it be sunrises, alligators, birds. It's what I do a lot of right now. But I also do macro. I'll do small animals, and I'll do street photography, and I'll use my old cameras to take some black and white photos with. So here's a sample of one of my cameras coming up. So I'm a generalist, but right now I'm focused a lot on wildlife and birds in particular. So I hope you enjoy my channel, and let's get right to the show. Hello and welcome to Gators, Ospreys, and more with the Nikon Z9. This video is a little longer than usual, but I will not be doing one next week. I'm going to be busy with my grandchildren and my kids, so we're just going to have a little bit longer one this week. And tricked you, not starting off with the Gators. I'm going to start off with an Anhinga going after a fish. And what you may think is camera noise, all those specks in the water are actually specks in the water. The pond is just full of so much plant life right now and stuff, it's ridiculous. Here's a quick video clip of one flipping and downing the fish. That's their typical approach. Sometimes they catch it in the mouth, sometimes they miss. It's early morning. And this is a long distance capture with the 800 PF, and followed by a great blue heron flyover. And we were lucky enough to at least see an osprey anyway coming up, but the water is too shallow for it to dive and really get any fish. And here's a group of whimbrels that are taking off in flight while some yellow legs look at them. And here's a quick video clip of the whimbrels before they took off in flight. Quite a large grouping. They always kind of hang out at a distance, so you know, once again, this is more than likely, well, this is the 800 obviously being used with this video clip. Not sure if I had to use the 2.3x crop or not. Quite a lot of them anyway. And then upcoming, we have a cormorant that decides to hit the brakes as it's landing in the water. And we got a spoonbill in flight from long distance. Boy, they're so pretty when you get them in the sky. Small grouping of them, and to the left in the photo is a little blue heron that's in the molting process. It's obviously has not turned blue yet. A few more shots here of these beautiful birds. And here we go. Now we're going to show you a gator. This one I think has a toupee on the back of its head. Yellow-green muck. And of course, the larger ones love to lay on the grass. And here's a preview of what you'll see in a video clip in a minute or two. And there's a larger gator that captured a blue crab and is chomping down on it. You can see the full length of it here in this still. Pretty good size. It's funny when they're eating because, you know, they'll lift their heads up, they'll chomp a little bit, they'll stop, and sometimes they'll put their heads back down in the water, like to take a breather, and they'll proceed to lift their head up again and chomp some more. You know, they can't tear, you know, the flesh, you know, like a shark does. I mean, they basically grab onto you and they don't let go, and they tenderize you, and eventually they chomp down enough to break off a piece. And here's the video clip where you're really going to see, or a few video clips where you're going to really see it working on this blue crab. And when you see a gator without something in its mouth and it happens to open up its mouth wide, you see that the throat is not, the opening for the throat is not as large as you would think it is. So they really have to chomp it down and tenderize it and have, you know, little pieces break off to be able to swallow it. When they try to eat flounder, many a times the flounder are wider than their mouth. They're so big down here. And that takes them forever to down one of those. Same deal, they have to keep chewing and chewing and chewing until eventually, you know, pieces break off that are small enough for them to swallow. But you know, the victim or the food item pretty much gets killed immediately, you know, because of those very, very strong bite strength on the gators. And you know, so it may take a while to eat it, but there's no suffering for the creature that it decides to attack, because it's pretty quick kill. And you can see, you know, part of the leg on the back side of it that just fell in the water there. I mean, so pieces are starting to fall off. It's going to be able to start swallowing some of this. Now it's going to take a little rest. Like I said, think about what it wants to do. Tilt its head, open its mouth, reposition the food back in its mouth the way it wants, and start chomping down again and trying to swallow it. I mean, I love watching them eat. I mean, you know, sometimes depending on what it is, it's a bit unpleasant. But it's just like watching a dinosaur. You know, it makes you think you're watching a dinosaur. It really is. I just found out from my neighbor that he had someone come to his house to get rid of some moles in the yard, and he asked him what his next job was, and the guy says, well, I have to go to Pawleys Island, and I have to remove a gator from a pond. And so he says, well, are you going to, you know, move it somewhere else? And he says, no. He says the state law is basically if they get requests to remove one, they have to euthanize it. That's too bad. I don't quite understand that logic. But here we have a black skimmer and a short video clip showing it skimming across, doing its job, trying to get some fish. And this is in slow motion, and it's still fast. This is slowed down 50%, 4K 120. And bird is incredible. Like I said, in South Carolina, unlike when I had my little trip with Mosman in North Carolina, you don't see hundreds of them, you only see a handful. And this is a barn swallow sitting on a fresh 2x4. And in the early morning, there was a small grouping of wood storks and small shorebirds, along with the spoonbills, which is also a very common bird that people will, you know, ask the photographers, or, you know, are they here yet? All the time. So usually it starts with the gators, and then it moves on to maybe the spoonbills or the small painted buntings, which have beautiful color. Yeah, these guys are just hanging out, and once again, they're pretty far out. If I didn't have the 800 in many instances, it wouldn't even be worth my time trying to film or take pictures of them. I mean, I can get usable footage and or, printable images with the 800 that I just would not be able to get with other lenses unless I wanted to put teleconverters on them. Here's a short video clip of this gator that's just lifting its head a little bit and showing off its teeth. Very impressive set of chompers. You can just barely see the opening in the throat. And this is a shot on the Waccamaw River, which is part of our trip when we went to see the Ospreys on a boat tour that my friend Bob from Bob R Photos, we call him Captain Bob, he navigates the pontoon boat. And we had 5 photographers, including myself, that went out to get some Osprey shots, which you will see a little bit farther into this video. And this is funny because a large gator crawls up, the smaller ones kind of laying there and I think eyeballing the size of this gator, and probably looking down and seeing how really big this gator is, and decides, well, I think I'm going to reposition myself a little bit so my head isn't next to its mouth. It's pretty funny. Didn't get off the grass completely, it just moved down so its head was closest to the water. Yeah, I really hope they don't call some of these larger gators that we have. I'd like to see them have a chance to get bigger. I don't really know. I mean, I know we don't really have, we used to have 13 footers, and once in a while you'd have one that might be even bigger than that. But they were wide. Here's a few sneak shots here from the Waccamaw River. Red-tailed hawk, which was a surprise. We were not expecting to see one of those flying around. And then I'm going to show you a quick video of a gator crossing what we call the causeway, which is the main road into the park. And this guy says, well, I'm leaving the marsh side. I'm going to walk into the pond side, go under the guardrails, cross over the sidewalk, and then from there it'll eventually transition onto the rocks that are poured off to the side of the embankment leading down to the water. So now it's hitting the rocky area. And there will be vegetation and grasses and some plants and flowering plants that'll grow the closer you get to the water. And he's sliding his way down. And of course I'm shooting at a distance, so I'm going to get the footings here on the overlook area, the support posts. So I apologize for that, but with the 800 you got to back up and do the best you can. Now we move on to the Ospreys. Now here's a series of shots of this one bringing in nesting material. And it was really, really a good day because even though there may have been eggs in the nest that the females were sitting on, there weren't, we didn't see any babies. I don't think any have hatched yet. Here the nesting material starts to break apart as the male lands into the nest. But there was a lot of activity with the birds in flight, like I said, gathering nesting material. And we usually, go out, rent a boat twice a year, and knowing that the first time we go out, it's going to be hit or miss whether we actually see any babies yet or not. But it's still fun to see them, being active and flying around. And, then we just recalculate, okay, when do we want to go back the second time where we know we're going to see some of the babies. But we just don't, without renting this boat and going out, we wouldn't see too many ospreys anymore at the park. They just don't frequent there a lot, and certainly not in any kind of quantities, I like it when you're lucky enough to get them flying with some trees in the photograph, so it's not just all sky. And it's interesting, and you should always take multiple pictures of the birds even when they're in the nests, because they can be looking left or right, but you give them a few seconds, believe me, they'll pick on the fact that you're there and you're looking at them, and then they are going to be looking at you. So you want to get multiple shots of the same bird, because you're going to get different positions of the head, and you want that. But the trees that they're in are just huge. And here it is looking right at me. And vocalizing a little bit, saying, get away from me, leave me alone. But those different positions of the head, that in itself tells a story when you put it together. But these trees, some of them are so tall, have multiple layers. The branches could be staggered quite a bit. You could have multiple nests in one tree. You'll always tend to have one, closest to the top. But as you'll see coming up, you also get nests where you don't expect them. You have mile markers along the waterway, that have a light on top of them. They have a base part way up, and the ospreys build nests on them. And here are some, nice full frame shots of an osprey in flight. And he's going to be landing on one of these, the top of one of these lights. Mark Smith in Florida there, he loves the ospreys, obviously. He's done a book about them, and I love them just as much. I mean, I think they're fantastic. Really are. This one's contemplating, what am I going to do next? And this one is getting prepared to fly out of the nest. And there it goes. And they'll fly around, into different trees, and they'll go in the shade for a little bit and relax. Sometimes they'll bring a fish there. many a times, at least actually most of the time, if they're bringing a fish to the nest, the head's gone. You know, they remove the head, so mama doesn't have to worry about doing any serious work when she wants to get some food. Here's another shot of one in flight with a small branch. Here's one that's leaving the nest with the fish, and you can see, you know, there's no head on it. And there it is in the tree with that fish in the talons. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I say, enjoy life, capture some of it. Please subscribe, share, and give me a thumbs up. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.